Eddie, what are you doing?
What does it look like? He always busted my balls. You fat, disgusting piece of shit. You make me sick. Fat ass, you're nothing but a waste of skin. You're so ugly, even your mama don't love you. Well, maybe he was right. Maybe I am nothing but a fat, disgusting piece of shit. But you know what? It doesn't matter if you're smart, dumb, ugly, pretty. It's all the same once you're dead. And the corpse can't laugh. From now on, if anyone makes fun of me, I'll kill him. Just like that.
Eddie, have you gone nuts? I knew it.
You too. You're just like him, James.
Hey, I didn't mean anything.
Interesting choice of words,
Bother.
James.
I understand. You've been laughing at me all along, haven't you? Ever since we first met. I'll kill you, James.
Oh shit, I forgot it's like right now. Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. Oh, that's my face. Ow, my face. Yeah, James really fucked that one up. James really shit the bed on that one. Hi Bird, welcome. Why y'all laughing at Eddie? Listen, Eddie's one of those characters I feel like, even though like he does a lot of things in here and like he reveals a lot of things where you're like, it could be very hard to empathize with him. He is a very tragic character in the sense that you really get the sense that he's been beaten down by life. Like, it seems that like he's only been told like negative things about himself. And, you know, a person can only take that so much before they're just like detached from whatever perspective they could have on the world. Like, you can only expect a person to really, you know, quote unquote, like turn the other cheek or like not take it personally until you get to this point, you know? So like the quote he said about like, you know, it's all the same once you're dead. It's like, well, it's probably how he was able to, you know, think about like killing a person ain't no big deal, you know? Because at the end of the day, we all die and it's of no consequence, you know? Who we were as people, like, now we're dead. He's a very fascinating character that way. Victims of abuse eventually become abusers. It's very much something that could happen. Yeah, I think James's reaction definitely was a really like simple moment, I feel, of like, in James's head, he didn't think of it at all. He just said the line and went, you know, have you gone nuts? Completely the wrong thing to say to somebody who's having a mental breakdown, you know? And I think that's what makes this game also such a beautiful representation of like the depictions of trauma and like what unchecked trauma can do to a person, because not, you know, having the empathy when somebody is really like being vulnerable and bearing your soul out there, like a simple comment like that really could like fuck someone up. Like, that's all it takes for them to be like, oh, I don't trust you now. Eddie is a very tragic character. I remember my first playthrough of this being like, wow, fucking Eddie, you suck. But like, the more I play through it, I'm like, I think there are a lot more people like Eddie than we realize. Like, maybe not necessarily going to his lengths, but maybe having at least enough happen to them to the point where they can't really empathize anymore because nobody's really been able to show them that. So do they really believe that empathy exists? I don't know that Eddie does. And I don't know that I can necessarily blame him at this point, because from what he tells us, nobody has been good to him. And that's sad. That's really sad. A lot of unchecked trauma. And I think that's a huge part of what makes this game so beautiful is pretty much every character in this, at least the ones that it's more central, like the central characters. It's very much, they're all examples of what unchecked trauma can do to a person. And it's all tragic. Like, no matter how it manifests, like, it's sad. And this is like what going through so much pain without having the ability to heal from it can really do to someone.
Do you know what it does to you, James? When you're hated, picked on, spit on, just because of the way you look, after you've been laughed at your whole friggin' life. That's why I ran away after I killed the dog. Ran away like a scared little girl. Yeah, I killed that dog. It was fun. tried to chew its own guts up. Finally died all curled up in a ball. Then he came after me. I shot him too, right in the leg. He cried more than the dog. He's gonna have a hard time playing football on what's left of that knee.
You think it's okay to kill people? You need help, Eddie.
Don't get all holy on me, James. This town called you too. You and me are the same. We're not like other people. Don't you know that? Let's party!
Ugh. Not Eddie Dombrowski. The man's been incessantly bullied his whole life. Well, see, so here's the thing too that I want to say about Eddie too. Like, yes, I also draw the line at hurting animals too, because what have they done? Unless the animal is like actively attacking you, like trying to harm you, self-defense, it only goes so far. I will fight to protect myself and people I care about if a dog is trying to harm us, yes. But I think what we can infer from what's going on with Eddie is the dog at most maybe was just growling at him. Not really an excuse. However, again, this is somebody who has been beaten down by life. This is somebody who has been ridiculed, who has been bullied, who has been it seems that nobody has liked him. What reasons there are from that up until this point, hard to say. But what we know about Eddie as of now, he's detached. There is no such thing as empathy in his brain anymore because nobody has given him that. And I think this is why it's important to have empathy even to those that you might not think deserve it. Because sometimes it's just that little bit of kindness that you put forth towards somebody that can really spark some level of change. Again, you don't owe everybody that. I'm not saying you have to do that to every single person because, again, not everyone's gonna deserve that. But I think the reason they put Eddie in this game and Eddie's storyline is because he is a very extreme case that I think happens a little more than we may like to admit. And sometimes the way we handle people like that just makes the situation worse. While he does things that are, have no excuses, there are certainly a lot of things within the story that definitely very much explain why he is the way he is. And I think no matter what, that still makes him tragic, on some level sympathetic, as much as you may, whether you want to or not. I think he's still somewhat of a sympathetic character because it is a lot of hurt and trauma that has put him into this place, and nobody should be at this place in life. You sympathize with his trauma, but also causing harm to animals. And then people, well, yeah, I mean, again, I'm not saying there's any excuses for his actions. That's definitely not a line you cross at all. But that's how much pain and hurt that he has that has never been healed, and that's why he's doing what he's doing. And I don't think that necessarily makes people any less deserving of help, and the ability to redeem themselves is kind of where I'm coming from with Eddie. You can sympathize but still go, hey, what they did was really messed up, so to speak. Yeah, because when we first see Eddie, he's not necessarily we don't think of him as necessarily this kind of person, he seems pretty normal, especially the really innocent moment of him just sitting there eating pizza, we get glimpses of him where we're this is the kind of person that we could see were this somebody who maybe got the chance to heal from this a little more. But he does some things that are inexcusable, but I don't think that makes him undeserving of some level of redemption. It's completely broken down, has been damaged by it. That his mind is convinced him that everyone deserves what he does to them. Yes. And I think, I think that happens more often than we might realize. Maybe not to this level, maybe not necessarily to this extreme, but I do think this happens more than we may immediately realize. And I mean, I even see it sometimes on Twitter. So, just saying. That's why I try to lead with empathy as much as I can, because I don't know people's stories. I don't know what they've been through. So, for the I haven't always been perfect at it. I'll say that. But, in what I've learned over the years, I try my best to lead with empathy because, again, I don't know what people have been through. This is what they could have been through. They could have been beaten down this much, and I don't want to be the person that makes them worse, The pizza scene also does hint toward a lack of empathy where Laura just leaves while everyone knows there's monsters about. He's just like, meh, she said she's fine. Yeah. It was a pretty loaded scene as far as his character goes. But I mean, even there, like, even a child ended up, like, kind of bullying him in that scene. Like, she's only 8, so, like, how much weight can you really put on that other than, like, Laura, don't say that, you know? That's not nice. But even then, he was still, like, you know, I think he still recognized, like, that's a child. I'm not gonna lash out on a child. You know a few Eddies in your life, and while things turned for the worse for them, I was very empathetic for what started it all. Yeah, it sucks. It sucks, and it really is. It's tragic that people can end up in so many situations that gets them to this point. But I'm glad that you were there to be, you know, empathetic toward them as much as you could.